All right. Welcome to my not first haphazard and but very earnest attempt at starting a YouTube channel. Now, a book YouTube channel, a book about reading. Where do I even look? Do I look there? Is that better? Is that I don't want to be that person that like looks at themselves the whole time either. I think I should look there anyway. I clearly don't have a very good background. I don't have a very good setup. You're on an iPhone tripod, but on top of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 books. And do have a microphone going. Don't know if it sounds good. I've tested it. It's anybody's guess. I want to talk about my favorite. I was gonna say top 10 favorite books of last year. It's gonna be 12, and there's gonna also be honorable mentions. So there's that. Obviously not a very original first video to do, but at the same time, a classic, a staple in every book lover's, so especially someone who's around book people a lot, which fortunately I am, because I worked in a bookshop for 2 years here in Dublin. Many of my friends in this city are booksellers, or at the very least big readers. So I feel like everybody has a top 10, and it's fun to go through it and talk about your favorite things of what the sort of a yearly wrap up of your reading. Reading last year really only took place for me between January and the end of July, because something very horrible and miserable happened at the end of July, and it took me until about November to start reading again. So really, this is my top 10 books from January to July of 2025. Number 12 on my list, because I said I tried to make a top 10. It was never going to happen. It was never going to be fully down to 10. Is Walter. I can't hold this very much because I have clammy hands and it's going to show. Ooh. Anyway, this is Walter Mosley's The Man in My Basement. Absolutely love this book. This looks bigger than it is. It's a very sweet 200 something, I want to say. Barely 250 pages, but the margins on this edition are lovely. You can fly through it. Anyway, I had never read Walter Mosley. This is primarily a crime writer. He did I don't remember the name of the main character of the series, but it's The Devil in a Blue Dress. My friend Carlos from Carlos and Yolanda's I was about to say you guys are from your YouTube channel. That's not true. They're my friends, but they have a YouTube channel called StoryTube, and Carlos mentioned this book as one of his on his top 10 as well. Everybody go subscribe to StoryTube. It's linked down below. That's so real. My first thing I'm ever gonna link down below is gonna be their YouTube channel. Absolutely. I was so glad that he enjoyed this as well, because it was a sneaker. No, how do you say that? It was a sleeper hit for me. This book is about a guy, a black man who lives in Sag Harbor, New York. He has inherited through his family that has owned this one house, essentially in the woods, for multiple generations. This is also a very particular book to me because it was recommended to me by my manager in the bookshop that I used to work in, because it is set in Sag Harbor, New York, which is part of Long Island, which is where I'm from, and we were talking about Long Island at the time. And he mentioned this book, and if I had ever read it. It was also not one that we stocked frequently, but I could order it in, and then I did. And it's set in Sag Harbor, and he has inherited this house, but he's also has to pay the mortgage soon, and he's not making enough money. He's out of a job. He's a little bit of he's sort of just like laying around a lot. And then this man shows up and asks, can I please set up build a cage in your basement and live in it for like a month. This is obviously, it's been a while since I've read this book, but that's essentially the premise. This mysterious businessman with a lot of money comes around and is like, hey, this is a perfect house for me to do this little thing I wanted to do. I'll give you money, you give me your basement, you take the keys to my cage, bring me food twice a day or whatever, and we'll be good. Fascinating premise for a novel. You'd think the intrigue of who this guy really is, what he's trying to get out of this situation, would be the main propeller, the main sort of thing getting you through. You're turning the page trying to figure that out. It's not even so much that, it just is. Every page, it's just these philosophical, like, intellectual propositions flying back and forth, but the dialogue is very interesting and accessible. This book is so accessible for what it is. Oh, look at my disgusting hands, what they've left on it, but because it's the type of material that just begs for that to happen. But The Man in My Basement, Walter Mosley, fantastically strange philosophical premise. There's also some really interesting conversations about like archives and archival work, preserving the memory, preserving specifically Black American like history. And in particular, it's not often that you hear about legacy Black families living in somewhere like Long Island, New York. But it's just, there's a lot of different conversations within the main character's romantic relationships and relationships to women that are so deeply contrasted with this very singular and very particular relationship that he develops with the man in his basement. It's fascinating. You should read it. I think everyone should read it. It's very accessible. I would honestly recommend this book to pretty much anybody, because anybody could get into it and read it, find something interesting about it. You might turn the last page and be like, not much happens. That's something about me and my reading, is that I don't need there to be a huge plot. In fact, I pretty much shy away from a lot of books that are mainly plot. I love a character study. I love slow-paced, weird-ass literary fiction. And this being a crime book, but on the literary, strange philosophical side, where it's a little bit of a nebulous ending, love that. That's all up my street, and I would like I said, you should read it. Everybody should read this book. Is there anything else I wanted to say about The Man in My Basement? I don't know, but doesn't it kind of look like a young Ralph Fiennes on the cover? Like a little bit? Like he looks a little I don't know. That's Thomas Lawrence. That is Cardinale Lawrence. Yeah, anyway. Let's do number 11. Yay! Paradise Logic is my number 11 book of last year. This is a batshit crazy book. Is this still recording? I surely hope it is. This is Sophie Kemp's debut novel. This is the UK edition. The US edition has a beautiful anime girl on the cover. I discovered this book because I follow Megan Nolan, the author and writer Megan Nolan, on Instagram. She is an Irish author with a couple novels out, and I believe is currently working on a nonfiction book. I don't know what it's about, but she does also a ton of like really cool reviews and articles for different publications. Anyway, she is Irish and now lives in New York City, and that's interesting to me as a person who lives in Ireland, but I'm not from New York City, but it's my city, the closest one from when I lived in the States. So I've been following her for a long time, and this is a good friend of hers. And I saw a snippet of an interview from Sophie Kemp talking about how all she had ever wanted growing up was a book with an anime girl on the cover. For her first book, to have an anime girl on the cover. And I'm like, I'm interested in people who want to write novels and envision these things for years in advance, and then when it comes to fruition, it's exactly what they wanted. And I wanted to read this book from the second I heard about it. This book centers a 23-year-old whose name is Reality Khan. First of all, everything about this book, I need you to zoom out. Zoom out of reality, even though the main character's name is Reality. There's a lot to be played with here. She's almost like, you're meant to take her as a real person, but she's sort of like a character among real people. She's a bit of a cartoon. She's a bit of a psychiatric patient, which is ironic because then she ends up joining a drug trial because she takes this pill to become the best girlfriend ever. I am not a person who generally enjoys reading books about women who love and center men. I think we do it enough in real life. Not me, but I think we as the royal we, everybody. That's not the royal we, but whatever. Everybody on this planet centers men too much a bit for me. So I don't generally want to read books like that, and especially not romance books like that. This I couldn't really classify as a romance book, although it certainly centers romance. I think I'm going to link a video of Sophie Kemp going around McNally Jackson books, so you can get a taste of who she is and her vibe, because I really don't think that you could or should pick this book up without understanding a little bit of who the author is. Not that you couldn't, but I think you'd be concerned, you'd be real weirded out. If a book gives me a sense that truly nobody else on the planet could have written it, then other than the author, I I am like, it's gonna be on my list for best books of the year. There's a couple of other books like that in front of me right now that I'm gonna speak about. Who else could have written this besides Sophie Kemp in this exact way? No one. And I know that's sort of true of almost every book, but very unique, very bizarre, an absolute trip of a book, and also real gut punching moments of horrible sadness, horrible, just some real brain breaking moments in this book. And I think if you're looking for something weird, if you're looking for something literary but that doesn't take itself too seriously but is also taking itself seriously, if you wanted a better experience out of a book like Bunny by Mona Awad and you just didn't really get it, or even something like My Year of Rest and Relaxation, and you felt something was lacking, you liked the writing but you felt something was lacking, or you thought, for example with Bunny, I liked the crazy of this book, but it didn't feel like it paid off for anything, or it didn't feel like there was enough intention behind it, or enough of a conclusion to it to justify what it had done. You know, there's just not enough of a point to it. This has a point to it, and you'll get to the end and you'll be like scoured out by this book, even though it's maybe the most absurd thing you'll have ever read to this point. So I think you should read it. Paradise Logic, crazy ass book. Loved it. Number 10. Okay, so number 10 is going to be the first of, I believe, 4 books by the same author in this crop of books that I have selected. We need to just understand what the situation is. I am a bit of a freak devotee to the work, not to the person, to the work of dead American author Richard Brautigan. Now, this is because it's not because I love him, his personal life, his views on women, for example, in some of his writing. There's certainly not much that I could say I'm attached to in his personal life, because I don't know that guy, and he also died in 1984. However, I have never read prose that has so felt as if someone had a wire with a whatever stuck in my brain, and at the other end of the wire was another clip, and it was stuck on a page somewhere from someone writing. I have never felt so deeply, my brain has never felt so deeply understood from how it moves through the world and sees things than how it feels when I read Richard Brautigan's prose. I don't love all the poetry. I'd say the poetry is about 50-50 for me. I love it or I absolutely fucking hate it. And I'm not a big poetry person in general. So I just need to say that, because I'm not going to go into crazy detail about what each of these books are about, because a huge thing with Brautigan for me, let me actually get all the editions that I have here, because I have more than this. But in terms of the ones I'll speak about. Oh yeah. Oh shit. My microphone. Sorry, darling. So I have like this many. These two are both their first editions, UK and American, of one of his books. This is just one of the standard Canongate paperbacks, all very thin, lovely. Don't love the covers though. And this, So the Wind Won't Blow It Away. So the Wind Won't Blow It All Away is my number 9. Is it? Nope, it's number 10. This is a beautiful cover. I love the cover of this. I love the design because this is based off of a scene in the book. The thing about Brautigans is that I find, as a reader, the experience of reading these books is almost like filling up a sieve full of water, as much as you can fill a sieve, and just holding it high up in the air and watching it all fall down. It's a transient experience, very difficult to qualify, very difficult to really explain what happens, because he's not a writer who's attached to things like narrative structure, character, point of view. It's not really about that. It's very much an observational, gentle, not sometimes violent, viciously violent, but in a almost detached, held at arm's length, but very genuine, earnest perspective going on in almost all of his books. And so The Wind Won't Blow It All Away is probably his most like that because it is based off of a handful of different stories from his childhood growing up very poor in the Depression in the not the Midwest, oh my goodness, the Pacific Northwest. And this book has a story of him as it's not entirely real, but it's a story of him as a maybe 10-year-old going and hanging out at this pond, this big pond that is in his town. And every night around, I don't know, a couple hours before sunset, this very large, I mean physically large couple turn up. They turn up with their pickup truck full of furniture hanging out the back. It's they have a couch, they have a lamp, they have all of this stuff, and they sit and they fish from the couch that they bring to the side of this pond. And I am utterly delighted every time I reread this. I think it's also one of his most, like, a lot of people use the word whimsical with Brodigan, and I don't quite get it, but I do get the childlike. He gets a lot of childlike allegations, and I think I gravitate towards this because I think I too am very childlike in the way I, like, move and see things in the world. Very naive too, very naive, and that's a little bit of what he is, but he's moving through a world that is not naive at all. So it's very interesting to see this sort of detached perspective, moving through the world at however old. I believe in this book he talks about when he used to live above a funeral parlor as well. That was in one of his many different living situations that he experienced growing up. And he also had to look after his younger sisters as well. I'm gonna try and give you a little taste because I speak very vaguely about Brodigan because it's, like I said, the work is vague. The work is, I mean, sometimes it's very specific. I love his work with metaphors. I love his similes. His similes are probably some of my favorite, like, turns of phrase in all of writing, like, ever. But he, on the just the inside dust jacket here, I had become so quiet and so small in the grass by the pond that I was barely noticeable, hardly there. I think they had forgotten all about me. I sat there watching their living room shining out of the dark beside the pond. It looked like a fairy tale functioning happily in the post-World War II Gothic of America, before television crippled the imagination of America and turned people indoors and away from living out their own fantasies with dignity. That fucks me up every time I read it because I'm like, this was written in 1970? This is one of his last books. Like, hang on. Published in 1982. Like, this was one of his last books. So The Wind Won't Blow It All Away is an American tragedy that takes place in the 1940s. It is the haunting tale of a young boy in a small town after the end of World War II. Very nebulous, though. It's similar to his most famous work, Trout Fishing America, which is... You could argue that book has the same narrator all throughout, but it's essentially a short story collection that's disjointed and all over the place. This is the most nearly autobiographical work of his consistently throughout. It's beautiful, and I won't go too far into it anymore, but I would recommend the portions of this book that are about this particular situation. It's just perfect to me. It's perfect, and every time I think about this book in particular, I think of that image comes to my mind, and it's very vivid. Number 9. What's number 9? Open Throat is number 9. Yay! Okay, this book got a bit sun damage, so the pink is a little all over the place, but Open Throat by Henry Hoke. You'll finish this in an hour and a half at most. It's a novel in verse. It is the perspective of, what do I have here as a bookmark? A single ticket for the Dublin Express. That's one way to the airport. Absolutely fucking devastating little book. Devastatingly particular in its perspective, because the perspective and the eyes that you were seeing the world through, the ears that you were hearing and interpreting the world through, are the eyes and ears of a mountain lion living behind the Hollywood sign. And now apparently this is a real, as in, like, there was a real mountain lion, big cat of some sort that lived up in the Hollywood Hills like that. I don't know if the Hollywood Hills are where the Hollywood sign is. I don't know about Southern California. Truly, just pick this book up. just pick it up, read the first few pages. If you can't get behind the sort of strange spelling of certain things because he doesn't have this mountain lion doesn't have access to grammar and spelling. For example, when he hears people on the phone walking on the trails talking about LA, he spells it in this book, it appears as ELLAY. I found this very endearing. I found it very I don't know, just very sweet, because here's an animal that is at times a predator and is hungry and is also being overtaken by human beings, not just human beings that are sort of gentrifying the area by talking into their Bluetooth headsets and whatever the fuck. Obviously just the fumes of Los Angeles and driving everywhere. But then also there's a homeless encampment nearby as well. And then it turns out that this mountain lion is gay. But it's not the main thing. This book was pitched to me as a gay mountain lion living in the Hollywood sign, and to be honest, while that's true, it is partially about queerness. The bit of this that focuses on that is very short-lived and very sad. So I wouldn't lead with that, because mainly this is about survival. This is about survival, loneliness, companionship, and like what it means to find a safe place to land in the company of someone else, and what especially that means if you are a wild animal living in one of the most populous cities in the States. So I would recommend it highly to everyone, especially queer people. I think you'll get down with this. If you need something to get you jog you back into reading again, I'd say a novel like this is very good for that, because it's very quick, it's very short, and also, like I said, it's like everything's double spaced because it's in verse. So at times lyrical, beautiful observations and writings about the world, about human beings from an outside perspective, and that outside perspective is a different species. Loved it. Number 8 is Dreaming of Babylon, by Richard Brautigan. He went through a phase in the 70s or was it all the 70s, maybe going into the early 80s, of playing around with genre fiction and combining genres. So for example, he has a book called The Hawkline Monster, and its little subtitle is A Gothic Western. Dreaming of Babylon is a private eye novel, 1942. That's its little subtitle. Willard and His Bowling Trophies is another book of his. That's a perverse mystery. There's a couple of others. What is the other one? Oh, The Abortion is it's a title of another one of his books, and that's called A Historical Romance. Anyway, Dreaming of Babylon is his most, in my opinion, most like other books book. Really good at English here. Really good. It is a private eye novel, but I want you to imagine just the most incompetent, inept, sort of just like moseying his way through life, private eye that you've ever encountered. This is no Raymond Chandler or whatever that guy's name is. I have not read The Big Sleep or any of those books, but like truly, it's funny because essentially this is a guy who is on his last leg financially, living in San Francisco. He shot himself in the ass during the Spanish Civil War, so he wasn't even like really a soldier, you know what I mean? Like he's on the bones of his ass right now. And it starts out as where am I gonna find money to pay rent? I need to get a client, I need to get somebody to pay me to do my job so that I can actually have money. And it sort of goes back and forth narratively between that pursuit and, as the title suggests, Dreaming of Babylon, because he got hit in the head with a baseball, and he got hit in the head with a baseball really fucking hard, and ever since then he just goes off into his mind palace to what he calls Babylon and just dreams of stuff, and he's just battling between being in reality and dealing with his shit, and then he's like, I gotta go dream about Babylon a little bit, and then so it's like back and forth chapters. It's funny, it's weird, but it is the most coherent narrative of all of his books. There is a start, middle, and end to this. There is a plot. There is sort of a scheme that's going on crime wise. There is real intrigue in this book. It will propel you forward in the way that a lot of crime books will do, and it will make you laugh. And so that's why I enjoyed Dreaming of Babylon. I'm thinking about it now. I think I might actually like So the Wind Won't Blow It All Away a bit more than Dreaming of Babylon, but I think I ranked it higher because I'd say it's probably a better book, and it's also more accessible to people. So number 7, I believe, is a minor chorus. Yes, number 7 is a minor chorus. This is really the Richard Brautigan weird crime book, and very literary fiction channel, but you know, I'm being true to me. This is a minor chorus by Billy Ray Belcourt. I know that he is from the Driftpile Cree Nation. This is in the north of Alberta, Canada, I want to say. I'll verify this. I had been wanting to read more Indigenous Canadian authors, because who doesn't want to read more Indigenous authors of anywhere, but also had a bit of an interest with Northern Canada and sort of the more desolate parts of a country the size of Canada that goes above the Arctic Circle, because I got real into AMC's The Terror last year. No, it was probably 2 years ago now. It's part of the reason why I have a map of Antarctica behind me, but we'll get into that that's another video. A minor chorus is a beautiful little novel, especially if you enjoy reading books where someone, how do you describe this? If you enjoy reading books where the author or the person that the words that you are reading are aware that they are being written, or like if you enjoy reading narratives where you are reading the author's thoughts about writing or writing the narrative itself, this is great for that. It's a little bit esoteric. There were moments of it where I thought, this is veering a little bit into Instagram infographic territory. I don't believe in things being too woke, by the way. However, there are moments of this where I'm like, this could be accused of being a little too woke. That's not the beating heart of this is perfection. The reason that I say if you enjoy reading books about writing, or where the writing is aware of itself, and that you'd like this if you enjoy that, is because the premise of this book is the main character is a doctoral student. I don't remember exactly where. However, he steps away from his dissertation because he's not getting anywhere with it and decides to write a novel, and this is the novel that he is writing in that moment. He goes back to the reservation where he grew up in northern Alberta and starts talking to people, starts writing, not just about his family and his extended family and friends, but also people he meets for the first time while he's up there. It's beautiful. You can really tell that this person, Billy Ray Belcourt, is also a poet, and I love books by poets. I think he does an amazing job of describing multiple different types of experiences with candor, but with beauty, with a tender-hearted look at how things are, but that doesn't shy away from anything. It talks about the queer experience, the Indigenous experience, the overlap between those two, sort of inaccessibility in academia, the way structures in academia really inhibit progress, or at least innovation, especially within the humanities. I don't know. There's a lot that goes on in this book. It's not long at all. I want to say, this fabulous, very floppy American edition. Love that. Love to see that. How long? 159 pages. Very beautiful. And also draws hugely from Roland Barthes' Morning Diary, which I had never heard of before this, but I did in fact order a copy as soon as I finished reading this, because wow, what a concept of keeping a diary of yourself in mourning. I think it was his mother who died, Roland Barthes' mother who died, and then he kept this essentially diary of it. Not that this covers too much specifically about grief, but it will cover everything. I mean, woven throughout these conversations are memories of Jack, a cousin caught in the cycle of police violence, drugs, and survival. Jack's life parallels the narrator's own. The possibilities of escape and imprisonment are left to chance, with colonialism stacking the odds. So much spoken about and through this novel. There's a quote on the back of this, and it says, "An absolutely dazzling confluence of big ideas and raw emotions. told in Billy Ray Belcourt's singular poetic voice. I can't really say any better than that. I think you should read it, and I think many people should read it. Oh, I can't speak right now. Let's see. What are we going to have a stroke talking about next? Number 6 is Willard and His Bowling Trophies. Crazy book. This is a first edition, so it has the sheeny whatever the fuck is on it, but a lovely picture of him on the back. How do I even begin explaining this book? How do I even begin explaining this book? There was a reviewer in the 1970s who said that Richard Brautigan's novels, if you could even call them novels, shouldn't really be called novels because they're unlike anybody else's, and they're unlike novels as well. And he said they should maybe just be called Brautigans, and I couldn't agree more. The thing about Brautigans is that I find, as a reader, and this is another example, Willard and His Bowling Trophies, A Perverse Mystery, weaves, I want to say, 3 or 4 different stories together of all of these people living in the same building in an apartment house on Chestnut Street in San Francisco. The principals are Constance and Bob, the couple upstairs who read the Greek anthology and play the story of O-Game, a strange mixture of offbeat sexual fantasies. One of them has genital herpes. It's a whole thing. Pat and John, the couple downstairs who eat turkey sandwiches naked and watch Johnny Carson. The 3 Logan brothers whose bowling trophies have been stolen. And Willard, a 3-foot-high papier-mâché bird. The Logan brothers have vowed to recover their bowling trophies at any cost and seek vengeance on those who stole them. I can't begin to explain this book. I can't begin to. It made me laugh. It made me desperately sad as well. It made me think about the consequences of something like a sexually transmitted disease, infection, whatever, in a very close relationship. This is one of his books that went out of print the quickest. I think probably because of its subject matter. I don't think many publishers were willing to be like, hey, here's this book about these brothers who go on this crazy quest and do all sorts of crimes because somebody stole their bowling trophies. And in the same house that they grew up in, there's this papier-mâché bird and then these 2 couples. And one of the couples has a genital herpes problem. And the other couple, I don't even remember what the other couple does. That's how little they matter in the face of the other one. The other couple. I don't know how you'd begin to sell this book, so I get why it went out of print. That being said, I don't know anybody who's well-versed in Brautigan, or I've never encountered anybody who's well-versed enough in Brautigan's prose, online anyway, who wasn't very delighted by this book. It's like all of his work, there's moments of absolute fucking hilarity. I laugh out loud reading these books frequently. It doesn't take much to make me laugh out loud at books either, though. I just have to say, like, some people really find laughing out loud at books to be either very weird or an experience that is foreign to them. Not me. Not me. I'll be laughing at almost anything. This is hilarious and crazy and again, just a bit of a trip by the end with the Logan brothers in particular. Like I said, it's difficult for me to describe Brautigan's books because it's a transient experience, it's a sensory experience. It's all 5 senses are going at once, and I am pouring water through a sieve. It's very difficult for me to really express to you what this book is, how it is when you read it. I think everybody's experiences it will be very different. Some of the problems in this book are very reflective of the problems that he had at the time. Let's not go too far into that. But I just think Willard and His Bowling Trophies is like, it's again a sleeper hit in the Brautigan prose universe. Obviously because it's not readily available either, so it's naturally going to be a bit harder for people to be talking about. But I think if you get a chance to read this, maybe at the local library, maybe they'll have a copy. You should check out Willard and His Bowling Trophies. Beautiful, funny, weird, sad, batshit crazy by the end. What more could you want? That was Willard. Number 5. Number 5 is one of my favorites. We're getting into such good territory now. I mean, like, we've been in very good territory all along, but this is Haldor Laxness, Under the Glacier. I don't know if I'm saying his name correctly. Nobel Prize in Literature winning Icelandic author. I am certain I'm not pronouncing his name correctly. However, this lovely vintage edition has an introduction by Susan Sontag as well, which is very cool. And the introduction was good. I enjoyed it. She A little quote from Susan Sontag about this, because who doesn't want to hear from her? I mean that genuinely. That maybe sounded sarcastic. I meant that genuinely. Wildly original, morose, uproarious. It is also one of the funniest books ever written. Couldn't agree more. This is the story of, I want to say, is he a minister? A naive young man is sent by the Bishop of Iceland to investigate a small town that has reportedly lost its faith. The church is boarded up, and the errant pastor lives with a woman who is not his wife. He has also allowed a corpse to be lodged in the glacier, so the rumors go. What he discovers is a community that regards itself as the center of the world. Earthly yet otherworldly, banal yet astonishing. Brimming with humor, mystery, and the supernatural, this is a surprising and moving novel from the Nobel Prize-winning Icelandic author. I mean, I'm not going to read to you the blurb of every single one of these books, because that would just be obnoxious, but that one deserved it because it's very this is, how do I even begin to describe the plot of this book? I picked it up, though, because, and this is like so classic me. When I was a bookseller, I could never just like tell the person the premise of the book and why they should read it for that reason. I always had to tell them how I came around to it, because I have a disease like that. But Anne Patchett, the author and novelist Anne Patchett, has a bookshop somewhere in Tennessee, and it's called Parnassus Books. And every once in a while, I get a video from her, a TikTok video or whatever. And she does this weekly like recommendation series called, I don't remember what it's called, but she'll be like, and if you don't know this book, it's new to you, and she'll tell you about whatever book it is. One of my fucking favorite books of the year previous, 2024. Was Helen DeWitt's The English Understand Wool, and I got that recommended to me from Anne Patchett. So I tune in when I see her. Her favorite book of all time, favorite book is Independent People by this same author. Now I have that book. It's in the same edition, much bigger though. I tried getting into it. I couldn't really get into it, but I wanted to pursue this author because I'm interested in, I want to read something Icelandic. I wanted to. And I wanted a comic novel as well. I'm really big into comic novels. This was my 1.5 years of comic novels. I mean, holy shit, is this the weirdest? It's like you said, wildly original, morose. Let's not deal, like, we have to understand the dichotomy of things here, because we have this borderline like mythical, almost like folkloristic story going on. This town where everybody moves a little weird. Everybody's a little weird. Everybody has their own sort of routines. It's like, you ever meet someone and they tell you about a routine they have or like a thing they do as if it's completely normal, but it's also the most strange, also banal, but also just fully bizarre thing you've ever heard, and you're just like, that's this book all the way through. But you get it through this perspective of this like young minister who's been sent from the capital, and he just has to deal with all of these people who are so set in their ways and so they act as if everything around them is so normal, and he's like, what the fuck is going on? And he has to prepare this report to send back of how this town could regain its faith. But then he's also really surprised by some of the stuff going on in the community, some of like the ways in which the local pastor or priest or whoever pastor is behaving. Why is the church boarded up? What really happened? Why is there a body in the glacier? I was attracted to this book because I have polar leanings. I love snow and ice, and the concept of a town's main geographical feature being a glacier is interesting to me. I want to know what a weird little town gets up to living under a glacier. Read this if that sounds good to you. It's fucking hilarious. Weirdest of all these books, besides maybe Paradise Logic, this is absolutely the weirdest book I've ever read. Absolutely the weirdest, and it instills joy and delight in me that whoever the people at the Nobel Foundation or whatever they're called said, let's give it to this guy. Love that. Who's next? Under the Glacier was number 5. Number 4 is the last of the Brodigans. I will shut the fuck up about him eventually. I will also have a video entirely about him. I'm drafting a video in my head currently, a beginner's guide to Richard Brodigan, because he has 10 different books that are prose. 8 are novels. Actually, let me check that right now. 2 novels. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 novels, and then 2 collections of short stories. Sombrero Fallout. It's interesting because I had been planning on doing a top 10 video of my favorite books of 2024. I have filmed many an attempt at that and failed at all of them and rage quit. In my head, I have already talked about books like Trout Fishing in America, In Watermelon Sugar, A Confederate General from Big Sur, even though it's not my favorite. The earlier books, the more famous ones. So in my head, I've already done that, even though I haven't. So in this year, I'm focusing on some of the later stuff, but don't get it twisted. In Watermelon Sugar is the first book of his I read and changed my life forever. Trout Fishing in America is in many ways perfect. Revenge of the Lawn is has some of my favorite short stories of all time. Anyway, I need to talk about Sombrero Fallout though, because this is maybe his most interesting in terms of attempting a narrative. This book flip-flops between the writer, him, writing this in real time, talking about his breakup with his Japanese girlfriend and how she's living a couple of blocks over and how she's sleeping at night and he's thinking about all these things, her cat, her hair, whatever, I miss her, why I can't, whatever, and then he's writing a story about a town in somewhere, I want to say in Texas or like somewhere maybe the Midwest, where a sombrero falls out of the sky and the whole town loses their fucking mind about it. And it's the sombrero that falls out of the sky. Everyone's afraid to touch it, but it's extremely cold. It's freezing cold, and they don't know what happened or why. And everybody is just a frenzy, is an uproar of what the fuck happened. And there's a moment, in this where there's like, I think the sombrero falls outside, right outside the city hall, and the mayor's there, and everybody's like, what is going on? The police come. You'll go from these almost like very gentle moments of describing his ex now, who, you know, you'll go from hearing about how they met in the bar and her personality and the way that they were together and just very simple grounded things like existing in the same space together. Yukiko turned like a fantastic page in her sleep, and her hair turned also like a dark page. Her turning woke the cat up, and the cat stopped purring. The cat thought about going back to sleep, then decided not to. She was becoming restless in her sleep. Her dream of Kyoto was falling apart at the edges. The dream depended on the purring of the cat for existence, and now that the cat had stopped purring, her dream was falling apart. You go from these very gentle, normal situations, you know, someone's having a dream, but it's started because they had a cat in their bed, and now the cat's moving and the cat's eating in the middle of the night, so the dream is different. And then you flip the page. The next chapter is, why were the police dead? That's an easy one. On their way to the riot in the town's, because there was a riot happening over the sombrero. On their way to the riot in the town's 2 police cars, they had ingeniously managed a collision between the cars. I can't fucking read today. On their way to the riot in the town's 2 police cars, they had ingeniously managed a collision between the cars that had miraculously killed them all. It was the kind of accident that usually resulted in minor injuries, with all parties concerned getting out of the cars and walking away. Badly shaken, of course, but all in one piece. That was not the case in this accident. They had managed to kill themselves. There were 6 police officers in the 2 cars, and they were very dead. It was not a pretty sight. A closer viewing of details is not needed. Things should be left as they are. The town's police department had killed itself. It will be left there except to say that normally there would have been a huge crowd around such an accident. The streets would have been filled with curious people, but because of the riot raging a few blocks away, there was nobody at the scene of the accident. The 2 cars were tangled together and filled with the bodies of dead policemen, and not a single person was there. It was a very strange night. It'll just go like that. And sometimes you'll even have the perspective of the crumpled up pieces of paper, these drafts he's making of the sombrero story, from the bin. You'll have the perspective of the paper from the bin. Oh, it's so good. You should read Sombrero Fallout because it's interesting and it's smart. It's smarter than some of his other books, even though it feels stupider at times. Now, let's talk about number 3. Where's number 3? Because number 3 is actually 4 books. Can you guess what this is going to be? It's a series of 4 books, but they're actually all technically 1 book. I'm talking about My Brilliant Friend. I'm talking about the Neapolitan Quartet. Let's talk about Elena Ferrante. First of all, gag of the century that you're anonymous and you wrote these books and they're as famous as they are. Fucking amazing. I wish I was her, or or they. I wish I was whoever wrote these books, because oh my God, the power you have to write these books, get them published, and for them to be so internationally renowned, and for no one to know who you are. Icon. These books really should be considered one singular book. I wish someone had really hammered that home to me when I started them. Because some people will be like, number 2 is my favorite, number 3 is my favorite, the years where they were this age were my favorite. I really can't think of this book as anything but the entire story, because it is so commanding. It's so... I mean, I don't know. I don't feel like I need to explain the premise of My Brilliant Friend, but it's essentially the story of these two girls who become women. They were born in, I want to say, 1943 in Naples, growing up in Naples, leaving, moving on. One of them stays, one of them goes, everybody moves around. And it's sort of the divergence of their stories, convergence of their stories. They end up essentially becoming a double helix through their entire lives. These books, while I wouldn't say they are like the literary fiction novels of the century, like, for example, that the New York Times would say, in many ways, and like normal, I don't fully agree with the New York Times. And I think but I will say the power of these books is the absolutely, unmitigated skill of Elena Ferrante and her ability to play with duality with these two characters in particular. I've never read anything like it. It's a singular experience. You go from age, how old are they when it starts? 5, maybe 6, until they're in their 60s. You will be extraordinary. You are living a full life with these people. So and they are real people. So you are going to be extraordinarily frustrated with them at some points. Both of them, but especially Lenu, who the narrator, the more book smart one of them, extremely frustrated, extremely, like, they're hypocritical at times, both of them. But these are full lives lived. My Brilliant Friend. If you're a fiction reader, if you're a literary fiction person, if you enjoy reading books in translation, I think the Anne Goldstein translation of these is very good. I wouldn't say it's the most, I don't know. I wouldn't say these translations really stand out to me as like these immaculately done or very artfully done. But I would say that I think that that's more an indicator of the source text being written that way. These books aren't written to wow you with their language. They're written to get you to read a full life lived. That's you are going through decades and decades, generations of people with these books, and so you'll feel as if you've done the entire thing. You've lived the entire way with them, and you are a member of the family, whether or not you want to be, just like them by the end of these books. I think they're classics. They are modern classics anyway, and I would recommend them. I'm not as excited about these books as I am for some of the other ones here, but they did have to go as high as they are on this list because they command that sort of attention. Like, I know that I said I don't agree with the New York Times. I disagree with them putting the first one as number 1 on the best of this 21st century so far. This is the worst of them all. Like, it's not, it's the bare minimum for the rest of these. Anyway, I'm not gonna get started on the New York Times, but My Brilliant Friend, you gotta read it. Number 2! I'm so excited to talk about number 2 because you want to talk about a book where you feel you have lived every page of this. You have walked every step. You have survived every single moment with these people. You want to talk about that? Well, let's talk about a book called Lonesome Dove. This is a book by Larry McMurtry. It was published in 1985. I believe it was started way earlier because he started as a screenplay in like the 60s. It was originally called Streets of Laredo, which is one of the prequels. Well, one of the prequels is to this book is called. It was meant to star like John Wayne. The screenplay that this was originally was meant to be the sort of last big Western on screen. McMurtry started writing it with director Peter Bogdanovich. They wrote it with 3 movie stars in mind: John Wayne as Gus, Jimmy Stewart as Call, and Henry Fonda as Jake Spoon. crazy. And then they shelved it. John Wayne didn't want to do it because he was wary of the melancholy nature of the film. And then he brought it back and finished it and then published it in 1940. Nope. In 1985. He received inspiration for the title of the book after seeing the name Lonesome Dove Baptist Church on a bus near Fort Worth. Absolutely. Okay. This is set in, I want to believe, 1880 something? 1880s, yes. In a little town on the Rio Grande called Lonesome Dove. The two main characters are ex-Texas Rangers. Their names are Augustus Waters. Holy fuck. Augustus McCrae and Woodrow F. Call. These two are each other's only equals. Everybody else has to answer to them, especially on their ranch for the guys that they employ. But these are the only two who don't have to listen to the other one their whole lives now. For decades now, they've been authorities in their town and in their work, but not to each other. They are partners to each other. They used to be Texas Rangers. Now they just have a little ranch on the Rio Grande. They will occasionally cross over into Mexico, steal a bunch of cows or horses, and then a lot of times the Mexican guys will come over and do the exact same to them. It's pretty standard. You start this book and you're like, what's the vibe? It's pretty dusty and boring. And then one of their old friends rides in. He's been in Arkansas, he's been in Montana, namely, and he said, most importantly, and he says, Montana, this country, Montana, cowman's paradise. You could start a cattle ranch up there. There's grass forever. Everywhere you turn, there's grass, and you could you could turn a dime up there. You really could. And that piques something in Call's brain, and he says, I want to do it. Let's go. We're going to get 2,000 head of cattle. We're going to drive these cattle from the very southeast of Texas, all the way up to basically the Canadian border. And you start out on that journey with them. It takes about 250 pages to even leave Lonesome Dove. You meet many other characters along the way. You also meet other characters in other parts of the country who are on different journeys themselves. When I tell you, you don't need to have an interest in the following to understand and adore this book. You don't need to have an interest in Westerns. You don't need to have an interest in cows or cowboys. You don't have to have an interest in cross-country travel in the 1880s. You don't need to be interested in the American West. You don't need to be interested in any of these things that are sort of the stilts that this book stands on. The foundation of this book are the characters, are McMurtry's work with the characters, the comedy of it, the realism of it, the naturalistic way in which these characters talk to each other, the way they think. I honestly can't tell you the last time I read a book and was like, can we just pause the plot for a little bit and just let's just all sit around the fire. I just want to watch everybody hang out. These are my friends. These are my family. Obviously there are things in this book that are not, how do I describe? Obviously this book deals with, the taking over, the hostile taking over of the American West and territory that is not the people who are doing the driving out. It's not theirs. You know what I mean? We're dealing with different Native American tribes tangentially and sometimes a little bit directly, but it's more so singular people versus entire tribes, although there is a moment in Wyoming that I will not spoil. However, all of that to say, this is towards the end of the 19th century. So the whole premise of them going up to Montana is purely because a bunch of settlers and also the U.S. Army have driven primarily the Sioux out of that region. And the main characters are Texas Rangers. They made that was what they did for a living, was fighting Indians, as they would say. So obviously within the context of that, these aren't heroes of the modern age. Hang on. All right, I'm back. I think it would be better for me to describe what happened to me while I was reading Lonesome Dove more. It would be more useful to you if I did that rather than just try to describe what the actual book is, because it's a journey. It's an odyssey, and you will have felt like you've gone every step of the way. But the thing is with me and this book, Lonesome Dove to me was extraordinarily special because of the effect it produced within me. I hadn't felt, I don't know if you ever had this especially as a teenager and adolescent reading books, where it hits 8 p.m., 9 p.m., 10 p.m., 11 p.m. and you're like, yeah, I'm not going to bed. I'm not sleeping until this is done. I am incapable of stopping reading this book. It's not so much that you want to stay awake. It's not that you don't want to sleep. It's that you don't want to finish reading the book. Don't you want to stop reading the book? That's what happened to me with this. I hit around 600 and this book is around 850. Oh, this book is around 850 pages long. I hit around chapter 80. Yeah, 80. And chapters go like this, by the way, which is fun, like mid-page. I got home from work one night. It was around 7. I was out on my balcony. It was summertime, so the light was out. The sun was on. The light was out. The sun was on. For a while, so I knew I would have time. And I had about this much left, and it really dawned on me then. Yeah, I hit around page 620, and I said, that's right. I won't be going to sleep tonight because I cannot do anything but continue reading this book. There is nothing I can do. There's nothing that could stop me from getting to the point where I am asleep this evening and this book is finished. This book has to be finished by then. And not because I wanted it to end, but because I needed to continue reading. I hadn't felt like that since I was a teenager. I hadn't felt like that since it was 3 a.m. and I had to wake up for school in 2 hours and I still couldn't put the book down. Ugh! Read Lonesome Dove. If you want a book that will be infinitely rereadable to you, it'll feel like a family member by the end, and the good kind. It will feel like this is a book I will have and keep for the rest of my life, that I will reread every couple of years for the rest of my life, most likely, that I will dip back into if I want to, just feel the atmosphere, feel the comedy, the dialogue so easy and funny and complex at times. You will just fall into this book. You'll be like, wow, I'm only hitting page 250 and we're only just now leaving Lonesome Dove. Strap in. Get ready. Get ready. If you hit page... I always hate when people are like, you have to get to the halfway point. You have to get to this episode. You have to get to this page number of whatever thing to get into it. I think this book does a good job of drip feeding you what will end up propelling you into reading this like a crazy person by the end. It's not the most crazy, hook of a book that you've ever experienced. I don't know about you, but I had never really dreamed of reading a book about driving 2,000 head of cattle from the south of Texas to nearly Canada in 1880. I hadn't been really dreaming of a book like that. I also am not a Western person. I'm not a person who watches them, and I'm not a person who generally reads them. This is a Western for everyone. It's also adapted into a miniseries that was released in 1989. From a Sunday to a Wednesday of the same week. There was an episode every night. It was an hour and a half long. And when I tell you, the final 100 pages of Lonesome Dove could very well make you cry. I don't think it made me cry, but it might have done. The last episode of the miniseries I was concerned. I was like, there might need to be a medical intervention here for how fucking hard I'm sobbing. I'm losing all of the fluid in my body just coming out of my eyes right now. Snot, tears. Unbelievable. I mean, just like just bone-racking, unfathomable sadness and grief from how well they portrayed the last 100 pages of this book on screen. Craziness. The fucking last episode of this book's adaptation into the miniseries. Crazy. Can't believe it. You have to read Lonesome Dove. This swept my place of work while I was working in the bookshop. I mean, everyone was reading Lonesome Dove. It's a really fun thing to read as a group. If you have a book club and you meet maybe once a year rather than once every month, because it's pretty big, I know, you should read Lonesome Dove and just be like, and what are you up to now? What are you up to? So much fucking fun. A bunch of booksellers reading this book is really fun too. I just think also my friend Sean, who is also a bookseller, thank you so much for giving me this copy because it's perfect. Beat up old copy. This edition is not in print anymore. It pisses me off because the new one's horrible. Fucking ugly and horrible. However, this one looks and feels like an old cowboy boot and I love it. It's dirty and dusty and you will have traveled many thousand miles you'll need to get to Montana when you read this book. If you only read one Western novel in your life, read this one, USA Today. I guess I agree with USA Today. Read Lonesome Dove. Now, last and not least, last and best. It's kind of hard to top Lonesome Dove, but I don't have it with me because it is currently with my friends Carlos and Yolanda. It's been lent out to lovely people in my life. My number one favorite book of last year is called Ladies of the Rachmaninoff Eyes by a man called Henry Van Dyke. This is, it's good that I don't have it on me, because I'll just gonna put it next to me, not on the screen, and it's gonna stay there the whole rest of the damn video. Everybody should read this book. It's short, it is hilarious, it's strange, it's sort of a lost classic. It's one of these McNally editions. I don't know if you know of McNally Jackson Books. They are a bookshop in Brooklyn, New York. However, they have an imprint called McNally Editions. And I became enamored by everything they released in their sort of line of books that are sort of lost classics, lost weird little literary fiction gems that they have reissued, or that were out of print or weren't given a proper publication run, and so they have reissued. There's a book I'm wanting to read soon, actually, that I have in a McNally edition, that is called Something to Do with Paying Attention. It's by Henry Foster Wallace. David Foster Wallace. I always call him Henry. I don't know. And I'm excited to read it because it's short, and it was found in the manuscript of his that was like 1,000 pages long. I want to say it was called like The White King or The Pale King or something, that they found after he died. But then they recovered this within it, sort of a novella. I think it's set in in an IRS office. I don't know, something to do with paying attention and the American tax system, and just misery and the American attention span. Give it to me. I would like to read it. Also, I find it interesting to make your first foray into reading an author's oeuvre, if you will, the first thing you read of theirs in their body of work, to be something very strange and small and not what they're famous for. I love that, because I've never read Henry. I've never read David Foster Wallace. Is that his fucking name? I think so. I can't read it from all the way my bookshelf's way over there. But Ladies of the Rachmaninoff Eyes is one of these McNally editions. It is written by a gay black man. It was released in the 1960s. This is Henry Van Dyke, I believe, was born somewhere in the South, but for the majority of his life was spent in Michigan somewhere. I want to say Michigan, or maybe one of the Twin Cities, maybe. I can't remember exactly, but I do know that a lot of his life was influenced by his love of the piano and of classical music. That's not too it's not very involved in the narrative of the story. Like, that's not important, but I just think it's a cool little fact and tidbit about him. And he was very, very, very good at the piano, and about classical concert pianist and all of this. However, I almost don't want to tell you a single thing about this book, and I'm going to do what I have done since reading it, and I mean truly talking the ear off about it to many people in my life. This book caused a cascade, a domino effect of booksellers in my life picking up this book that they had never heard of before me, going on about it and loving it, coming back to me saying they fucking loved it, and I'm so glad, and I try to get everyone to read it. I'm going to do with you what I did with everybody else, and that is to direct you to a particular excerpt of this novel, which is available on the McNally Editions website, which is a website I frequently peruse, because especially while I was working in the bookshop, I'd be on there looking up what am I gonna order in next. I don't have any right on hand to show you right now, but I have Gary Indiana in this format. Like I said, David Foster Wallace, Henry. What else do I have in this format? A couple of other books that are they're beautiful to hold in your hand. They're almost a bit more narrow. Like, for example, this is like your standard B form of paperback. They're taller and more narrow than the average paperback. And it gives you this, I'm like, you pick it up and you're like, is this going to feel like a brochure or something, you know? Because especially with books in the UK and Ireland, they're very stiff paperbacks. So it's very difficult to make it readable and nice to hold in your hand and read when you're just, you don't want to break the spine, for example. I don't mind breaking spines. I think that's the heart and soul of reading books, but that's just me. Hey, that's just me. I just think that these books, they're amazing just in your hand. The paper is beautiful. Everything feels beautiful about these books. It doesn't matter how big it is. A lot of the books are shorter, but in general, I have another one. It's a German name. I can't remember. I'll put it here. beautiful cover as well. But that's like one of the thickest McNally editions that I own, and it's still beautiful to hold in your hand. And this novel is stunning. I was on their website and they had an excerpt from it, and I had been curious about it because I'd seen it on the shelf, and I was like, that's a beautiful cover. I'm curious about. And a strange title. I didn't know anything about Rachmaninoff. I was wondering what could possibly make a lady of Rachmaninoff eyes. I'm wondering what this means. I am just going to direct you to an excerpt from it, and I would say if you dislike anything about this, and if you are not completely enamored by it, don't bother picking this book up. But if you are interested in reading this book, which many of the people in my life have been, that I have said, read this excerpt, tell me what you think, and then read it if you liked it, you won't go wrong. It's not too long of a book. It is absolutely, to me, it is like a glittering jewel in the bottom of a treasure chest that had paper and dust and everything else in it, and at the bottom of it I found this book, and it's just been itching my nose because my room is dusty because all my books are everywhere. But truly, like, it is the crown jewel. It is a glittering, beautiful jewel of a book that is, I don't even want to tell you the plot of it because I just want everyone to go read it. Simply bewitching, fucking hilarious. It's the type of book I would love to see be put on the stage. I would love to see this book put on the stage. It's also hilarious that this is my number one favorite book of the year because it deals with the relationship between two older women, and one of which is technically a domestic servant of the other. And my number one favorite book of 2024 was The Door by Magda Szabo, who I recently learned from a Hungarian customer that I had at work, that in Hungarian you'd say Szabo Magda rather than Magda Szabo. Interesting. Truly hilarious, laugh out loud funny, moments of real, just, I mean, it deals with so much. I actually can't, like, I am so flustered by my love of this book, my true just affection for this book, and the fact that it was written when it was written and published when it was published. I even went on to buy the sequel of it, which is called Blood of Strawberries. I have not read this yet. I only just got it last week as a little birthday present to myself. And this book is impossible to find. It's out of print, and it's been out of print for a long time, but I'm so excited to dip back into this world because it's enchanting, it's stunning, it's hilarious, it's smart, and very unique. There's a warlock involved who's kind of a scam artist. Love it. I think everyone should read Ladies of the Rachmaninoff Eyes. It exactly fits the bill of a lost classic. I'm so grateful to McNally Editions for printing this book, reissuing this book, because it's perfect. And everyone should read it. Read the excerpt that I'm going to link below. If you don't like that, don't bother. But if you do everything you can to get your hands on that book. Please. If there's two things. If there's two things I want you to take from this, it's to read Lonesome Dove and read Ladies of the Rachmaninoff Eyes. Perfect reading experiences that really, for different reasons, you'll come back to both of them for the rest of your life, I think. And that's what I love about... That's what I hope to acquire every year with my new favorite books is, will I be able to come back to these in a couple years' time and get something even more out of it than I thought I could have before. I reread The Door this year and about near lost my mind. I reread it for the first time and I knew it happened. I lost my mind. So I know that's going to happen with Ladies. I know it's going to happen with Lonesome Dove. I'm sure it'll happen with plenty of other books on this list. I'll be rereading the Brodigans until I'm dead, probably after too. A couple honorable mentions I'd say would be Hard Rain Falling by Don Carpenter. I read this at the very end of last year. Beautiful New York Review Books edition of this book. Very written by a white guy in the 60s though, so take that with a grain of salt. But the gay prison relationship that had a tragic end, holy fuck, that happens in the middle of this book, in which the pacing is a little weird, but you're just kind of stuck in the head of the same guy the whole time in this book. But holy crap, does that one relationship really pull a lot of weight in this book. I'm trying to think anything else. I read Drive Your Plow Over the Bones of the Dead for the first time last year. I was a little bit disappointed by it actually, but I did love the humor in it and I loved the narrative voice. So Olga Tokarczuk, that was a sort of slay, even though it wasn't my favorite. was hoping for a bit better, actually. What else did I read last year? I will list some other honorable mentions if I have them, but that's all I can think of right now. And don't bother reading any Richard Brautigan until I make my video about it. I feel so intrinsically linked with this person's work that I'm like, for all the people if you know me personally, do not pick up a Richard Brautigan book unless you consult me first, because there's so truly a chance that where this could happen, where you pick up the wrong one and it is the wrong one for you. Like, for example, I know someone who picked up In Watermelon Sugar, absolutely should not have started with In Watermelon Sugar. In fact, I would have said that's the book that they are least likely to get on well with. But, and then what happens there is you write off the author. And that could not be less of the case, where I'm like, not all of his books are In Watermelon Sugar. In fact, it's sort of an outlier. You know what I mean? So I will be making a video hopefully soon on a beginner's guide to Richard Brautigan. Which book should you start with based on your current taste in books and what you enjoy reading? I will be making a video on McNally editions because I love them so much. I'm like a little bit of a super fan about them. And if I ever get the chance to go to McNally Jackson, I will be all over. I'll be all up in their shit with their editions. And also read Ladies the Rachmaninoff Eyes and Lonesome Dove. Okay, I'm gonna go. I have to go. But I hope you enjoyed this. If you're my friend, please subscribe. If you're not my friend and you're a stranger and you're finding this, God bless. And also, if you're gonna stick around, don't go like spreading the word of this YouTube channel to anyone. Like, I'm really hoping, like, my dream is like a solid 300 people, 300 subscribers. Like, we don't need to go beyond that. Everybody be chill. If you're gonna pass on, if you're gonna say, I enjoyed this video, please, you should watch this, do it to your friends who are cool. You know what I mean? Like, we don't need, this is on a public platform, but it doesn't need to be for the whole public. You know what I mean? Like, just be for us. So, let's just be chill and cool. Read whatever the fuck we want and talk about it. That's what I want to do, and that's the aim of this, and hopefully we will accomplish that together. Please let me know if you have read any of these books, particularly the Brautigans, Under the Glacier, Walter Mosley. Have you read any of these? What are your thoughts? I would love to know. Also, what was your favorite book of last year? I would also love to know, because if there's anything that's going to get me to read a book, it's somebody else talking about it. I'd be doing it for free anyway on my close friend story. That's another thing. I'm going to start an Instagram called, I think I'm going to call it Close Friends Reading, like a little bit of a play on the concept of close reading, where I extend it from my personal life. I keep I have a healthy and probably unhealthy relationship with the Instagram close friend story function. The people on said story will know and understand and agree. But I'm going to start one for what I'm reading in the moment, because I frequently want to talk about books as I'm reading them. But in a YouTube video format, I feel like it has to be a bit more thought out than that. Whereas, like, I'm reading The Brothers Karamazov right now. I kind of just want to be like, hey guys, checking in with my bozos, because I love to call they're my bozos. I affectionately call them my bozos, because everybody's a bozo in that book. I'm like 350 pages in, and I'm ready to like be like, hey, look at here goes Ivan. Here he goes. I'm not pronouncing anybody's Russian name correctly, I know, but I don't know. So I'm gonna start that too. Maybe I'll start that by the time I finally fucking edit and upload this. We won't know. Check the description. And go and subscribe to StoryTube with my friends. They're great. Okay. Love y'all. Bye.